Hello, welcome to the CJP podcast, Caleb Joshua Paul. Today this is my second podcast. I just posted the last one a few hours ago, and now we're getting into it. I'm here with Josh Lousky. I met Josh Lousky while traveling in Israel, so I actually look up to Josh Lousky because I think Josh actually figured out a few things on how to live a well and a loving life, a great life, a fun life. And he knows a lot better on how to live life than a lot of people. Anything you want to introduce yourself with, Josh?
Not too much. I'm Josh Lousky, currently a freshman in college. Took a gap year. It's basically me. We'll get into who we are.
Okay, I'll get into why I'm having Josh Lousky. I finished my first podcast and I was sending it first to the people I actually want to hear their opinions on. And Josh was actually one of the first people I want everyone to hear this podcast, even strangers. But one of the first people that my mind came to that I wanted to share this experience with. Why? Because I really, truly do look up to Josh. I think he's figured out some things about life that people don't know. And he's figured out how to enjoy life. I think he has to figure out a few more things before, he's not the saint on life. I don't think he figured everything out. But when it talks about my whole point, you can learn anything from anything. You can learn from a cup. You can learn from a person. You can learn from the janitor. You can learn from the astrophysicist. You can learn from everybody. And I would like to learn from Josh.
Amen.
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 So, Josh, would you agree with the statement saying that someone who would enjoy life, you know how to enjoy life more than the common man? Would you agree with that statement?
I enjoy the little things. I'm not really too hung up on like things that a lot of people spend most of their time worried about. Like, I have the concerns of women and whatnot, but I don't know. When I'm like stressed out about school, I try not to let that control my whole being, my whole essence. And a bad grade really doesn't faze me where it kind of maybe should. But
okay,
I feel like that kind of it has its pros and its cons for sure. But I kind of enjoy that.
You bring up a very interesting point about grades. We're definitely in the age of college, and where grades and our schooling are definitely the highest priority of now because we're investing in ourselves, investing in our futures. That's exactly what our educations are. And you bring up grading. Why do you think something like what would you consider a bad grade? A D, a C? D in some circles is considered passing. For me, it's C or above. We're talking about skewed right graph.
Yeah. I mean, kind of a bad grade for me is when I do not my absolute best in a class, when I feel there's something I could have done more to get a better grade.
That's how I would define it. Yes.
I wouldn't really like quantitate like a C could be a good grade in like the hardest like freaking class you ever taken in your life, but like
there's always the
professor,
like at the same writing down,
like professor based extremely. Like the professor you have like dictates very much like the grade that you're gonna have and the experience that you're gonna have in the course directly. Like you have a shitty professor, it's gonna skew how much effort you want to put in. Also, like if you have a boring professor, like
definitely
don't even get me started. Like that's like
I had a personal call with a little anecdote story for me is I changed my major from political science to geology. And the reason I did that was I think geology is a little bit more economical of a degree. And second, it's because I fell in love with the subject. And I had the same teacher 2 semesters in a row. And on the second semester, she was dealing with some health issues. And that means she had to step back a little bit from her actual full engagement of teaching. And I was actively mad at her. I got an A in the class, but I was still like, I could have done better because my point of the class wasn't so to get the next grade. I was trying to actually learn geology, where I now committed myself that I need to read that book, like my textbook during this quarantine. And I've committed to myself to read that textbook, at least by the end of this quarantine. So that really circles back to, thank you, Josh, that I was actually during the pre-podcast while we're making sure all of our minds more organization. What questions should we ask everybody? And you're the one that you presented was, Can you say that again for me and for the podcast? What question I thought was a good idea, or a great idea, actually?
I listed off a few right there, but
I'll repeat it
which
back for
labels
you.
would you?
No, the one that I want to say is, what is your lowest grade in
Oh
a
yeah, the
class,
question was
and why?
what's your lowest grade that you ever got and why?
So which one is that for you? Because now we're using the metric, we're using the common metric, not the metric you gave us of how much I put in, how much I'm capable of doing versus what I did. This is a much different metric. This is the metric of A, B, C, D, E, F, 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 90, like 80 to 89.99 is a B. That metric. What is your lowest grade, and in what class, and why? Was it the professor? Was it you not putting the hard work? What exactly was your lowest grade? And por qué?
I would say it would be a B in my documentary class in senior year of high school.
That's really your lowest grade?
No. It's not the lowest grade I've got.
By your metric.
By my metric and by my own definition.
So use your metric. I like that better.
I would say I put 0 effort into that class, and I was one of the people in that class who actually cared about the outcome. I currently kind of want to be involved in some film for my future career, and when I was in that class, I should have been putting more of an effort towards that. If that was what I wanted to be doing for my life, then I shouldn't have been like dicking around in my documentary class. I should have been trying to actually make good stuff, but
almost definitely a missed opportunity. It sounds like
a missed opportunity for sure. I didn't try at all, and I still got to be. My teacher really he liked me, but he would every time I came into class late, he would be like, "Oh, here comes Josh, hire now."
And I'm sure he understands that the artistic side, that the use of substances is above, and that's why he maybe wasn't, at least you showed up to class,
Honestly, yeah.
You showed up. It might have showed up intoxicated, but at least you showed up.
He out of everyone definitely understood that my teacher, Roger Blonder, definitely had some
a little shout out. What was the name of your professor? Give him a little rate my professor grade. Let's hear it.
Roger Blonder. He was my high school teacher. I wonder if he's on rate my professor, probably. But
oh yeah, excuse me.
He definitely showed me some of his work, and that looked very drug inspired.
Interesting.
I think the man partook in some mind altering substances for sure.
In his early years, or still consistently? Because
I think more so in his earlier years, not consistently.
Because I know you definitely, if you look at some cultures, they have shamans for a reason. You literally figure your life out, and then you do things for a reason.
Yeah.
So that actually transitions quite nicely into one of your facets that I actually want to learn from you, is your video making. Because I only took 1 year of video making class, and I fell in love. There was about 2 years of my life in high school, in 10th grade, where I wanted to become, do film for a living. And then I realized, oh wait, this is not very economical, and that's okay. I said I'll just enjoy film as a film critic, not in the film critic in the sense that I'll be posting a blog, but a film critic in the sense that I enjoy film. My favorite movie of last year, I think should have won the Oscar, was 1917. I totally understand why Parasite won, and Parasite was my second favorite movie of the year. So I totally understand what's going on, and then I would actually like to pick your brain a little bit on your extent of film, and like, what is a sophomore? I'm a freshman level of film. Actually, I took up to a sophomore level of film if you're looking in the context of high school. But what it maybe college sophomore level of film? What can you share with me?
If I'm being honest right now, I am a freshman in college, so the extent of my film class is really, really high school, because right now I'm just taking gen eds. I don't really get to the actual film classes until next semester. But from my perspective, I think that the most important part of film is just bringing people together, and that kind of is what really drew me to it. And any time that you can draw people together with the use of a medium like that, I just think it's so powerful, and I just want to be able to utilize that to its full extent and be able to like learn all the skills I need to kind of make my own powerful message.
Okay, and what part of film do you most like associate? Are you a producer? Are you directing? Are you the editor? Are you the cinematography? Because I say personally, my favorite part of film is the cinematography, and that's why 1917 was my favorite film of last year, because the
Yeah.
cinematography was quite excellent. Did you get a chance to watch 1917?
1917.
It's the World War One movie, 1917. It's about two British people two British soldiers that need to cross no man's land and war zones to deliver a message to save about 1,500 soldiers. Is based on a true story. It's a great film if you haven't watched it. I would recommend watching
I
it.
have not seen it.
But I would say on the cinematography for it, well, it was shot that it was one continuous shot, so you felt like the third member in the party. So it seems like the film is in it. Other things when I think of Josh Lousky, I think about his first figuring out life much quicker and better than other people. Second is your video making, because you did bring that up. And third, your other hobbies are DJing. I do recall you posting some every so often about you being a DJ at a local whatever and making some moves on the DJing front. Do you feel like DJing, what you learned from video making applies in your DJ making skills? At least on an audio well, you have to, audio wise.
100%. So basically having all that prior knowledge of how to set up like audio equipment for filmmaking gave me the know-how to basically set up all the audio equipment for DJing and putting on my own live events. And I was able to put on 2 pretty successful events in my high school career. The first time in 11th grade when I threw an after formal for my school.
Event planning too, man. That's another
actually,
I totally forgot.
I'm sorry. My first event was actually in 11th grade, and it was
that's hustling right
after
there.
Prom. It was an after prom. My school is known for its after proms, and the people canceled it after on the night of and planned it for like a few weeks after. Sure. And I threw a after prom on the night of, and I didn't really make a lot of money, but I broke even, actually exactly even, and by the end of it, I learned a lot of lessons, and that's what I took to the table when I threw my second party. And that second party, had a lot of fun. I made about $5,000 that night, which is pretty chill. There was 500 plus people there, and that kind of know-how of like DJing and filmmaking kind of like tied that all together. And yeah,
I'm saying that forget your video making, that's a high school level, but if you're making $5,000 in one night, that's at least amateur party planning, and you should actually seriously think you should use that as a side hustle for when you go through college, so you have a little spending money that you can spend on your own parties. And I really commend you for your prom after party where you broke even. You shouldn't be making money, you're trying to provide a service for your class, whatever. Well, I think it would have been totally fine for you to make money in that situation, but in that you chose not to, and I think that's wonderful. You providing such a service for
And again, I definitely could have made money if I DJ'd the event myself, but I hired like a $2,000 DJ, and that's why I didn't make any money at the end of the day.
I'd say, why do I moving from video, like you said, video making and DJing? There's a very clear transition between audio and the audio world of video making and the audio world of DJing. So of course that transition is clear and evident, but that's just my stress of the point. You learn from one subject doesn't mean that you shouldn't learn from another. So if you have one part of a hobby that you actually enjoy, people, and you only like a certain part of it, there's definitely a subcategory that you can enjoy the whole part of it. So from one thing you learn in life, you can learn multiple things. Like, it's literally the order and the chaos. If you look at the actual text of God, like the actual Bible, the word God, there's many different formations of God, and the one in the creation story is literally order out of chaos. So if you find in the order of one thing, you can apply it to another thing. That's a much deep, meaningful conversation that I need to figure out a rabbi to come on this conversation and have that. I definitely want to. So let's
Little
see.
DMC with the Rebbe, of course.
Literally, oh, that's really. So let's actually use that transition of, do you consider yourself Jewish, and how? How do you consider,
Uh,
and which ways? Like, I'll
my
give you culturally, ethnically, religiously, spiritually, whatever way you want to put your labels. Let's use those labels. Let's quantify it by your metric. But all I mean is, let's explain your metric. Let's hear it, Josh.
I'd explain myself as a Sephardic Jew. My dad was born in Morocco. I would define myself as a Jew because they kind of like put it on me. It's not really something I chose. I mean, no one really chooses religion.
Is they your parents, or they as in society as a whole?
They as in kind of my parents, but society as a whole. You don't really choose religion, so to say. I mean, when you're a Christian, you have the confirmation, but it's not really a choice of religion.
Oh yeah, at 12. What type of choice is that?
Yeah,
to a 12-year-old.
Of course,
In Judaism, we have 13. That's definitely a barbaric saying. Maybe if that's why I'm not a big fan of rabbinic Judaism. But
and
like, let's be honest. In a modern world, what is it? 21, 18, 26 for some people. It should be a question of when you're an adult, you should choose Judaism.
100%, I agree with that. But you don't have that choice when you're having your bar mitzvah at 13. And you don't make the choice if you want to have your bar mitzvah or not. You are having it regardless of what you want or not. But
I'll say I was given some autonomy in my bar mitzvah choice. I was given an option to either have us or immediate family, like my parents and my siblings, go to Israel and have it at the wall, or I was given the option to have a nice big party, like the traditional Jewish American princess party. Good big old bar mitzvah, but I chose to go to Israel, and I was lucky enough that even if I didn't have the spiritual end of it, I had a great trip and a great thing where I really grew my Jewish identity.
Yeah. And I think what's important about the Jewish identity is not really the know-how of how to do every prayer or even reciting your bar mitzvah portion. I think what's actually important, the biggest takeaway for Judaism for me, is that like it encourages you to spend time with your loved ones and your family.
Oh, definitely.
When you break it down to science, what Judaism is it's going to shul, it's eating meals, it's eating more meals,
it's the practice,
it's spending holidays.
The practice.
And if you're following the rules and not using your phone and electricity, what that forces you to do is it forces you to bond with your family. And there's really something to be said about that. Like, I'm not saying every word should be followed to a T, but what's nice is that you can have that space or that environment that's provided for you that you have to be in to connect, rather than just something you want to stumble upon that like set a time part of that week, or that set a time part of that day, or the 3 times a year where there's week-long holidays or whatever. It's nice. It's a nice little escape, a little break.
I think I know that my 2 cents on Judaism is that there's very few cultures that I will always. This is one of the things, like Joe Rogan also always talks about the monkeys and the expanding of the brain, and the idea of the what's it called, the high ape theory, or whatever, where apes took mushrooms to expand their mental capacity past what anthropologists think was capable. I always have a thing my 2 cents when it comes to Judaism is that there's very few ethnic groups that lasted as long as Jews, over 1,000 years, over 2,000 years, about only 5 to 10. One of them is the Han Chinese, another one is the Romans, another one is Jews themselves, another one is a few Native American tribes, and it's for a reason. And I know the reason is rabbinic Judaism. They kept it alive. It's the oral Torah. It's the oral tradition. And the Judaism that we train right now is an offshoot of like Maimo in the 1100s, I believe. And that's rabbinic Judaism. During the time of when Judaism there were actually significant sects that died off. And the sect that we have right now is rabbinic Judaism. So on my point, I consider myself an Orthodox Jew, but I'm a bad practicing Jew. I eat non-kosher, I eat all these things. But I know when I raise my family, I'm not going to do as stringent as Orthodox, but I'm going to have a religious home. That's
modern Orthodox.
Even less so than modern Orthodox. Because modern Orthodox already has a label. It's going to be Caleb, Joshua, Paul Orthodox. but at least a baseline understanding that this is the faith, and I hold that faith.
Yeah.
And that's what I say on an ethnic level. I think is you have to be 1/4 Jewish to be ethnically Jewish. Why? That's what the Jewish state holds, the state of Israel. And why does the state of Israel hold this? It's because that's what the Nazis hold, that if you had one grandparent that was Jewish, you got genocided. And I think on an ethnic level, we are a group and we still have to stick together as a group. Why? Because the world decides that, not because of us. I don't think it should have been necessary in an ideal world. There's no thing that ties me to another Jew. But in our world, in the status quo, yes, I do consider myself ethnically Jewish. On a cultural level,
my friend's dad always said, "Fuck the Christians, marry the Jews." So it's a little takeaway.
I like the shikstas are for practice.
Yeah, it's a little more PC way of saying it.
A little
sure.
PC way to say it.
Yeah, of course. You can blur me out if you want.
Oh, you're good. I'm not one to silence the people I choose to listen to. I'm one that if you need to do that to let out your knowledge, you know what you know is best, make sure to do that. Do you have any other final points on your Jewish identity and anything like that? Because I'm sure that many people our age, it has some, either my identity, your identity, or some mix of the both.
No, not really. Not really too many more points on my Judaism. I just that I like value the lessons, but not really at a point in my life where I kind of hold the words to a T, if you know what I mean.
Okay, so just to completely change topics to something else, I see that you're vaping on this podcast and you're vaping directly in the camera as a sort of seems like some sort of special effect. What type of vape, do you mind me asking what that is?
It's definitely a weed pen. I just recently stopped nicotine vapes. If you want to see in the back right there, I have some Costco nicotine gum right there.
So it seems like you have some sort of a nicotine addiction as well as some sort of substance abuse problem with weed. Would you admit such a thing?
I don't know about substance abuse with weed.
Or would it be
say.
substance dependence? Maybe not abuse, but dependence. You will get like a headache if you quit weed tomorrow. Like you can probably quit it if you want to. You're just not quitting it because you're choosing not to.
I wouldn't get a headache tomorrow if I quit weed. I would get like anxious if I didn't smoke weed for about 3 days.
Okay. And like I said, everybody's body is different. I know that I deal with some substance abuse problems, and I only call it a problem. I don't think it's my body dependence. I can quit when I want to quit. It's no problem. It's
if you actually thought it was
I'm not gonna have shivers or anything like that. I might be a little on edge, a little not nice to be around, I would call it. And so it seems like, do you think anything with your family life pushed you towards it? Because I know one thing, Jewish mothers are a lot, and Jewish fathers, and the Jewish community is a lot. And that has anything to do with it, your substance? Because I know doctors have a high degree of substance abuse because they have a very stressful life. Do you think your life and the stresses in your life caused you to go towards nicotine?
Doctors also have a little prescription pad they can write on.
Or friends with a prescription pad.
Yeah.
Doctors have doctor friends.
Draw little doodles on, doodles that get you feeling funny. But I don't know. I've kind of always liked weed. I would say helps with my anxiety.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a root cause of my anxiety from just kind of a little bit of an anxious person, but I definitely couldn't put a finger on my anxiety.
Everything is nature versus nurture, and some things you can't control. It's just nature.
But whenever I'm on edge and shit, weed is just very, very helpful.
Okay. And it sounds like you use it as a self-medication. And that's okay. Yeah. I think that's great. If you're an anxious person, maybe you should smoke weed. If you can get your shit done, there's no problem with it.
Yeah.
Besides maybe the lung damage. So if you do it responsible with I haven't done long-term studies on vaping, but me personally feel like vaping is a little bit better for me because I have allergies. Other stuff like that, most definitely. Anything you want to expand on that I didn't say about? I think I have a next point on that point, but anything you want to expand on before I move on to that next point on that.
No.
I'd say life is too short not to have vices, and that's my point. I'm saying if you can get your shit done and everything, there's no problem with having a glass of wine at the end of the day. There's no problem with watching your Netflix TV show. At the end of the day, that what is the end? You need to learn how to relax at one point. And if that is with the substance, that's okay. If it's with a chocolate cake at the end of the day, maybe keep it to a chocolate cake once a week, not every single night, but I think that's more than okay. Any opinions on the life is too short for vices?
Yeah, I mean, have your vice, but just don't take it too far. Obviously, like you could do what you're gonna do, but there's a line that shouldn't be crossed, and
Really?
sometimes, yeah, there's definitely a line that shouldn't be crossed.
What about
for
everything in
vices.
moderation, even moderation? How do you feel about that quote?
No, I wouldn't want to do heroin in moderation.
No? Even if you broke your leg and you're in the ICU with your bone sticking into your lungs?
I
That's
mean,
called, what's
I wouldn't do
heroin?
heroin. I would do Demerol,
Morphine,
like
yeah.
something.
But let's
Yeah,
say that you have,
but
you don't, let's say you're,
I'm saying for recreational use.
okay.
Like not
Yeah, I'm not going to see you in
just,
any opium dens, it sounds like.
yeah, probably not. I don't know. My views might change on that though. Legalize heroin 2020. You know what I mean?
Actually, I'm very pro. I like the Portuguese model of how they police drugs. They don't police
Legalizing
them.
all drugs.
It's a
Yeah,
medical issue. It's nothing more than that. And
yeah.
if you believe you have a substance abuse issue, you can go into a center and they can help you with it. Totally legal. I like the Portuguese model. I think we should move as a nation towards that. So,
But
would you
people are
say?
dumb.
Do you think you hold good relationships in your life, or do you feel like your relationships could use some work? So I think, me personally, I think I hold a lot of good relationships. They might disagree with you, but do you think that you're doing a good job so far?
I think I hold good relationships. I'm definitely still really close from a bunch of people from high school.
What people from high school? Because I know I fall out of touch from a lot of people from high school, except maybe of the 200 people that I was acquaintance to friends with, I probably have 3 to 5 people that I even have any degree.
I probably have about 10.
10 good people. Like I said,
Yeah, but I didn't have more than that in high school. So like pretty much all the people that I have now I was good friends with in high school. I don't think I fell out with anyone that I was friends with in high school.
it sounds like you figured out how to find good people early. It took me a little bit longer to figure out how to find good people. And that's
Yeah.
and that's good because I know I've met you up with multiple times and I've met the same people. Multiple reintroduced them into your friend groups and it's the same people, and I've noticed that. That's what another way I looked out.
I think the thing is, at least for like guy friends, like it's kind of hard for me personally to be friends with someone who like I can't smoke a bowl with,
Oh,
Don't get
really?
me wrong. I don't care if they don't smoke weed.
But what if you need to at least hang out in the room with you while you smoke weed?
Yeah, I'm not talking about like on the same level of like bloat in your face or like anything like that. But I'm talking about like can't be uncomfortable with me. Like the
Yeah,
fact
definitely.
of me smoking. Like if I go outside and take a rip and come back in, you can't be like,
Oh,
dude, why do you need to do that?
bro,
What?
you're
Like,
weak. Dude, that's such a
yeah,
bite. I don't
yeah,
like those people. And I tell you why I don't like them, which is, I'm going to guess is why also you don't like them. They're too controlling. You don't want your friends to control your life. You're okay with your friends
exactly.
giving you advice.
Yeah. Just kind of like the worst thing is like people using you, but I went to a Jewish private school where like
You feel like you've been
people
used in your relationships and all that?
no, I don't think I have. I just think that people in my life are not I think people in my life understand that what goes around comes around because I was in an environment of such a small high school.
Well, I
Like
think
people in my
that's
high school don't want to like screw people over because like they don't want to be screwed over themselves. I think they
אנחנו
understand
כולנו
that.
יהודים וכל יהודים are חכמים. Jews are smarter than most people, man, and they figured out, I think the Jewish religion definitely was the nurture part of it that they really figured out some actual values. I do think on general, I went to both Jewish school and public school. In general, I think Jews are better people than non-Jews. There's a reason why goy in the term goy means other and why we distinguish between us and the other. We literally take that responsibility on ourselves and say our burden is bigger. And it sounds like why you haven't been used is because you picked good people to hang out with. And that ties back to the first point. And that's
and that definitely took me a while too. It's not like I met those people first day of high school and I was rolling along. I went a long time of high school, like not having my crew at all, not knowing where to go, and then I had my period of just swinging around from group to group. Then I kind of found like my good crew in high school around like the end of 10th grade, 11th grade, and then it was all Yofi Tofi.
Yofi Tofi with a side of Mofi.
Morphine, of course. Yeah. I love my Yofi Tofi with morphine.
I say, it's a statistics problem. Given enough time, you're gonna find the good people.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's actually can tie into my next point, where why am I posting this podcast now and I'm so confident it's going to be doing well? I'm just going to throw that out there. I think this podcast is going to do well. Why? Because I think we're saying at least smart enough things, and at least some people are going to listen to this. And given enough time, improbable events are a statistical guarantee, given enough time. It's the reason why I think life is inevitable. It's the reason why I think even if we blew up our nation, blew up the world in some chimpanzee way, give chimpanzees 9 million years, they're going to be where we are, maybe. But when we broke off from chimps was 8.5 million years ago. And that's why I love geology, because it finally gave me the answer, the final why. The answer that Judaism couldn't give me, because Judaism was thinking too much in the perspective of 3,000 years ago until present. And I think geology, I only figured out such things only because I'm talking in the realm of 4.6 billion years.
Yeah.
You feel like,
dude, honestly, let's talk about Corona a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
Let's calm down a little bit and talk about something less serious. Because we're talking about such thing as the meaning of life. Well, let's talk about a little about coronavirus. And yeah, I tell you, I done about 20 to 30 hours of research about Corona, maybe additional 5 to 10 hours about the economics behind Corona. And I'm now more worried. And that's only because I remember my economics class a lot better than my biology class, because I took it much sooner. And I do remember those in my biology class who went to the biology class. My test did make a full round around the class before I turned it in. I do admit to that academic dishonesty, where my A's was everybody's A's, because if I got the A, I didn't study. I just paid attention. You didn't study. I feel like it wasn't fair that I got the good grade and you didn't. So I helped help people out. I did the big W, not to stroke my back, that I'm probably overall hurt those people, but in the context of the class, I helped them get that good grade. So basically, my understanding of Corona is with a calculus level. I think once you got to Calc 1, you can understand Corona. And if you take a biology class, you can understand Corona. How are you feeling about it? So I'm concerned. I'm more worried about the effects. I'm more worried about the economy at this point than the actual coronavirus. How about you?
You can also think about coronavirus from a communications perspective.
Okay. I would love to hear this. Let me actually, I want to dive into this. How can you hear it in the communications?
So basically, one of the main things about communications that you learn is globalization. And globalization is defined by the lowering cost and distance. And what that means is that the world has become so much closer together.
Yes.
Every single human, even if they're not next to each other, they are next to each other. They are right there. Like, our content across America is popular in all other countries. That's why we know who Ronaldo is, and in Europe, every single person know who Kobe is. But we have that, and basically the world is just so close together.
And I think to that point, yeah, okay, what does me knowing Kobe? Well, yes, I have to think. That's a traveler visiting Hollywood from China. That's a traveler visiting Hollywood from Italy. That's a traveler visiting New York City from South Korea. That's the context of communications. Okay, maybe, so what? They like our culture. Yeah, they like our culture and they want to visit us. Is that their fault? No. They're asymptomatic carriers. They don't know. So I can
also we like their culture too. We have
I love it. You know, it's my
many things that stem
favorite
from their
cuisine. My
culture.
favorite cuisine, which is culture, is Japanese food.
I love me some sushi.
Yes.
Love me some sushi.
And I love the ramen. I love the udon noodles. Oh, I love the teriyaki.
I made some sushi the other day. It was phenomenal. I made it with my family in the kitchen.
When you come,
cooked it
I'm
up.
serious. Okay, if you come on by, let's go to the store, pick up some, teach me how to make sushi, dude. I'd love to learn that. Next time
Just
you
get some sushi grade fish. That's all you need is sushi grade fish. Like the rest, super easy.
Yeah. I can say, okay. So that's how you see it from communications, from a globalization perspective. I definitely see the same way from an economics perspective, and globalizations, the economy is a scale, and how in our globalized world, not even globalized, maybe a nationalized, and how much of the world was reliant on China as their cheap, free, very cheap, low-cost industrial labor. I think we as a country need to divest from China and invest in India, where India has its own problems with Modi and how they're treating Arabs, but they're definitely a lot more, they're a democracy. They're not as democracy as we are, but they're democracy, and China is a one-party state, not even a democracy, not at all, not even close. I know it's called President Xi. His name is not President Xi, it's Dictator Xi, and if you say otherwise, I say 1 million Muslims disagree. Being interned, actual internment. Why? Because they're Muslims and they had some associations that with some people with terrorist roots. Unacceptable. So I'm more worried about the things, and I can tell you why I'm no longer worried about Corona. My point is, what is actual Corona? It's a lipid outer layer. Or excuse me, I actually got roasted on Facebook by Erin Connolly, which I hope to have on sometime soon because I really respect Erin on what she says about things. She literally roasted me on the internet about it because I did a gross overly symbolization of Corona. She literally said it's a lipid outer layer with protein spikes that basically determine that it's a cell that they can infect with RNA inside. That's all it is. That's why alcohol destroys it. That's why such things work. So Corona, if you know that, and exponential growth, which you learn in calculus, which is basically a 3 to the x graph. If we don't have quarantine, it's 3 to the x, 4 to the x graph. And once you understand the basic math behind it, I stop being worried. I don't want to go in the weeds and the details. I feel like if I go into the weeds and the details, I should have a doctor, an infectious disease person, or maybe someone with a little bit more expertise, maybe even my math professor. I would love to ask my math professor and have a talk.
So let's get Dr. Fauci on.
Yeah, maybe not Dr. Fauci. He might be a little bit too busy for me, but I can at least get my math professor and get my economics professor, ask them personally to hop on and see if they can help me out. So I definitely also more worried about the economics system, more particularly because my brother shared a video where the economic system is money is debt. Money isn't actually fiat currency anymore because that's a macroeconomics freshman course understanding of money, and it's a lot more complex than that. Money is debt. Money is created by banks. Banks create 95% of money, and the system requires constant lending of money and constant growth. And this, as a student of history, my favorite class in high school was World History AP. As a student of history, I did not. This has never happened before. Supply and demand has never been stopped on a globalized scale ever. Yes, we've been dealing with pathogens since the dawn of civilization. Think about the Black Plague, the bubonic plague. Think about the 1666, whatever. I forget the actual date where Isaac Newton figured out calculus literally because of a London plague. we've been dealing with this. It's just a black swan event because this is the first time we actually dealt with it in a modern Western world.
Yeah, and I think that modern Western world kind of just shows us that we are able to kind of curve this disease off if
Oh, yes.
if we all kind of put in our part.
Oh, yes.
Like, it's still going to spread around, but
It has
just
to
the
spread
fact of the
on.
matter is we're currently in a situation where people live in cesspools. We live so close together. Like,
Oh,
people are at stores. People don't make their own food. It's not like if we tell everyone to stop going out for 3 weeks, they'll have means to survive. Where people are just not in like the hunter-gatherer mindset where they could survive without
I don't
a
think,
grocery store.
I think in a modern world, that's asking too much of people. With
Oh,
a basic understanding
100%.
of this disease is, I don't think you understand it to the point that you need to understand it with those points, because if you don't know this, this will become cyclical and we will have coronavirus season, at least until we get a vaccine. And probably even after, because it's going to mutate and it's going to be like a mutating flu that we deal with every season. And why the reason is because there's so many asymptomatic people and it has a 3 to 4 transmission rate. The second we open up our borders, that's a new introduction into the. So at a certain point,
if people didn't need to interact with other people,
this
disease wouldn't be an issue. Like, if people could actually isolate themselves for 3 weeks, if every single person in the world could isolate in the world,
yes, it
isolate themselves for 3 weeks. All right, let's call it a month, then the disease would be eradicated. But
because you have to think about, households and you giving it to the household. But yes, it would. I mean, think that's a great point.
Everyone in the world stopped having sex for 10 days, and chlamydia would not exist also.
Oh my god, that's actually such a good point. It's literally the point.
It's a different disease, but the point is applies.
My point is there's no difference between us and a virus except we're a little bit more complex, and then this virus is just a lipid outer layer. Well, I have an epidermis outer layer. That's the only difference. I have DNA, they have RNA. Okay, so that's another difference. But I'm just a lot more complex. We're just a bunch of space dust, all of us. And that's why.
Thank you, Mr. Neil deGrasse.
Little Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's where I said 13.6 billion years, and it took me take a geology class and think in the perspective of 4.6 billion years to actually figure out my meaning of life, and I think a convincing argument for the meaning of life outside of God, which I'm still formulating, and I'm happy to share. I need to maybe have a rabbi or a religious friend to go on a spiritual journey with me to figure that one out.
Maybe ramen for some.
A little
Lousky.
Ramen. Okay. I'm trying to think of any other things that we want to go over. Maybe we can mellow it out on how did we meet. We can talk about our journey across Israel together. We took a very interesting journey where we actually saw a good bit, probably about, I would say 60% of the major sites you can probably see in Israel because it's a small country and you can only see so much.
Yeah.
It's about the size of. Give it a little context to Israel. It's about the size of New Jersey, maybe even smaller. I think fit a Jersey you can fit an Israel and a half in Jersey, I think. And we literally spent a month going from all the way to the north, all the way to the south, enjoying different parts of Israel. And that's where we first started this relationship. And I think the first big major event was actually me going to her sister's house, right? And going to Tel Aviv with that. And that was a fun trip because that was one of the first quote unquote adult things I did was we took public transit 40 minutes into totally broke TJJ bus policy rules. And we witnessed a drug deal happen while biking. And I thought that was so cool. And
I bought a pack of cigarettes and was vibing.
It was a mamash balagan, balaganim.
And then we went to go see my partner from when I did that exchange program on bikes. We biked to his house.
Oh yeah, I do remember that when they spent some time there. So that's where we actually met. This is where I met Josh. That's more of the specifics. What would you think was your favorite? Like, how many times have you been to Israel? Let's talk about Israel for a little bit.
Probably 6-7 times. I was supposed to go to Israel. I was supposed to be in Israel like a week ago, but I ended up not going because of this whole coronavirus
Oh, yeah,
mess.
definitely.
My cousin was supposed to get married, but the wedding was called off, sadly.
Oh, really? They called off the wedding for this side. They didn't even continue. They call off like the actual wedding or just the ceremony?
Um, I know it's for sure the ceremony, but I'm not sure if they got married still because I know it's like a bad thing in halacha to like push off the wedding date.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not 100% sure what they did about that. But this is unprecedented times that we're kind of living in right now. So what are you gonna do? It's a whole mess in and of
I think,
itself.
like I said, it's a lipid outer layer and everything. And once I got the science behind it, once I got there's like three major things that happens about viruses that we have to worry about. A, the death rate. If you get it, are you gonna die? The coronavirus is probably a 99.99% survival rate. The statistics you see are a biased sample because you're testing only the highest symptoms. So of course you're gonna have more people who die from it.
Yeah.
B is the transmission rate, which is 3 to the X for the X if we have our entire economy open. I still haven't seen estimates on with our social distancing what the transmission rate is, but we are flattening the curve. That's what it is. We're making it from exponential. We're making it more linear. And with the last one is the fuel, like how many fuel you have, the population size, the bodies. And like you said, if we actually all quarantine for a month, we probably would deal with this as a world, but we can't quarantine. We're going to have a baseline transmission. Some doctors are going to get sick, some things aren't, and it's impossible to stop. And at a certain point, we do have to take it on the chin, or we have to live our lives like this for the next 12 months until they develop a vaccine. And that's unacceptable by my card. If that is the case, if the federal government tries to do that, if the state government actually tries to do that, that's unacceptable. I would openly rebel against the government by living my normal life. And if I get arrested, I would literally take it all the way to the Supreme Court. I'm that serious. If they try to shut down America for that long, okay, on the short term, get hospital capacity in line, but I would openly rebel if they try to keep us in lockdown for 12 months. No. I personally heard about Corona mid-December. I literally told a friend of mine in chemistry, I'm not so worried about Corona because Trump literally blocked travel to China. I'm sure we'll get hospital capacity in order and boost up our medical system to get ready for this. We didn't do nothing. And that's a large part, the negative score on Trump. Overall, I'd give Trump and the federal government probably a B- handling that. What is pulling it down is the initial response. If you give a response post March 15th, and totally disregard before March 15th, I'd probably give them a B plus, A minus, maybe even a solid A if you really consider it.
Yeah, they're just fixing their own mistakes right now by flattening the curve. Like everyone is gonna get it. What they can't do is overwhelm the healthcare systems, which they could have prepared for if they didn't fuck up so bad and waited
2 months.
so long.
2 months. You should have literally. I was literally.
Not literally. Like I think that if the FBI and the CIA, like I'm sure the NSA could literally tap into those guys. And coronavirus has been known about since November. November.
No, it's been widely known about mid-December, and that's when I heard about it. I heard about it actually on Reddit boards of East Asian politics about Hong Kong, and they would say that a certain type of viral pneumonia is popping up in our protesters. That's how I personally heard about it because I'm interested in East Asian politics. I know that to say that it's only fixing the mistakes that the federal government are doing, that's not completely true. To play devil's advocate and to defend the Trump administration, the WHO did not declare the pandemic till March 12th, I believe. You can always double check that, but it was only a few days after that Trump called it a national emergency. I think China is the main culprit here. China, you know how many diseases came out of China in the last 100 years? Out of wet markets, about 10 to 20.
I've known about 3, like the flu.
The Hong Kong flu is another one in like 56, I believe, 58, something like that.
SARS,
MERS.
MERS came out of
a different the Middle East, but it's also a wet market. I'm talking about.
It came out of a camel, yeah.
Really? Okay, I
Yeah,
should
yeah,
definitely do a little bit more research about talking about it. But in my
I believe,
research,
yeah.
10 to 20 different actual diseases they can trace back. This one just happened to be one that can shut down the whole world for a month, it seems like. Maybe even 2 months. We're going on two
I
months, the
mean,
whole world's shut down.
this disease isn't that bad. It's just
Oh,
the asymptomatic part. It
mm-hmm.
really is.
It's not that
It's
bad.
just the people that are immunocompromised.
And
Those are
old.
the people that are just screwed, like, and old, like the people
Uh-huh.
that can't, like the people that would have a very high chance of dying from the flu when they get it.
Mm-hmm.
Have a very high chance of dying from this. The thing is that they can see people coughing around them, and people know when they have the flu, but people
Uh-huh.
don't know when they
One
have
thing about being
this.
asymptomatic is you're not that transferable. And people are like, oh, you could be an asymptomatic transfer. If you literally have a facial mask, only way that you can transfer that disease is if you touch your eyeball and touch somebody else's eyeball. Like,
Yeah,
and I guess from
like dry.
your dry
It's like
hair, if
fun
you have
activity.
like if you had like dandruff or something like that. But I'm not sure even if the virus is, it's mostly a
That should be like
respiratory.
a new YouTube challenge,
It's a
eating each
res
other's dandruff.
oh it's a respiratory disease, so it's mostly in the respiratory tract in your mouth and your saliva and stuff like that. So okay, don't make out with first strangers for like 2 months. That sucks. It definitely messed up my social life because I was finally getting the groove of moving out of my finally trying to start dating again, and this coronavirus
So,
thing.
are you trying to tell me that I should do lines of homeless man's dandruff?
I'm saying probably the virus doesn't show up in the dandruff base of my knowledge, but I wouldn't be surprised if a very minute part eventually makes it to you. And like I said, that's based off of freshman level biology class. I'm not. I need a disease doctor. I need to figure out some sort of doctor, some professional that
All
actually have
right,
this conversation
let's call
where
up Dr. Fauci.
like we're both two 20 something year olds. I'm 20 turning 21 later this year talking about this, and I know this is a
Yeah.
much higher elevated conversation than most of the conversations I heard about corona. Why? Because people listen to the mass market media and it's not good.
Yeah,
It's
they're just saying the same goddamn things over and
alert
over
not
again.
anxious, hashtag alert not anxious, Dr. Mike. I like to say stay corona concerned, not corona panicked. And it sounds like okay. So I think we should slowly come to the end. It sounds like it's naturally coming to an end. I think to answer that first question, what is the lowest grade in a class and why? I'll give you my answer is a D plus. I got a D plus in my algebra 2 slash trig honors class in 10th grade, sophomore year. Why did I get that grade? Is because I did not put any work in that class. For the test, I literally was thinking, I'm sure I can, like, I know I was basically basic paying attention in class. I'm sure I can figure it out. The lowest grade I got on the test was 30%, was for a logarithms test. And that literally I got a B first semester, I got a D plus second semester. And that logarithm test, I still in my math, what part of my math right now, I'm in calculus 1 right now, I have to get up to calc 3 differential equations about linear equations or whatever. It's more of algebra, not even calc, but up to algebra, linear equations and differential equations. I still suffer from that choice in 10th grade, that logarithms and trig and logs where I get held back. And why did I put that grade? Because I decided already in high school that I wanted to go to community college, so I didn't care. I just said, I'm in high school to have fun. I'm here to learn. Each class I entered, I really learned. I didn't enter to get a good grade. I entered, hey, I want to learn about this portion of life. And that's why World History AP was my favorite class. AP US History is my favorite class. Whatever the social study of the year was my favorite class. And I'm not a fan of math. I'm all right at it. I can do it if I put the hard work in. I'm good at it.
Yeah,
It's hard for me because it's boring, dude. It's math. Like unless you're a
yeah,
mathematician, that's why I love my professor so much, because she's great at math. She's great at math and she loves it, and you can tell she loves it. And I gained some passion from it. It's just like it's hard work, and if it wasn't graded, I'm sure I would do a lot better in math.
yeah. I mean, if we're actually talking about my worst grade, it was definitely in math. Also, I took pre-calc. I did not get a D or a C or a B or an A, but I did get a withdraw no pass. And
well, a
that
withdrawal
was
or no pass is better than an F. I say that.
it is. I just knew I was gonna. There was no way for me to get my grade up to a D before the end
And
of
I
the
tell
semester,
you why it's better than a an F, because it's you at least acknowledging I messed up, and I know schools can actually understand that. It's you acknowledging yourself. Well,
and also it's one. It's one withdraw no pass. It's not like there was a couple on there.
So I'm going to say what I like to do, how to finish off each of my podcasts. If I know you didn't listen to it, I hope that you at least send this one to, maybe listen to it maybe later. I don't know. I want you to roast me on this podcast and get better. I learned from you this perspective, how you went from DJing to video making to DJing, how those things you learn from one thing transfers the other. You said bring it together as a medium. I think that's beautiful. That, okay, maybe you don't like video making, but if you have a boxing class that brings people together, that focus on community, that community can be a community in any hobby. Find the people around you that you like. Even in this corona situation, post on the internet, try to find your people. I think that's important. It's that I also learned from you your ability to enjoy the little things, the moderation, even with moderation in mind. Any other thing? One thing learns from everything is moderation. Even moderation is my point. You kind of disagreed that maybe heroin in moderation isn't the best. I'm saying if you have heroin in a weekend and you never have heroin ever again in your life, why not, bro? Like, whatever.
But like moderation is like
go visit an opium den.
But one time is not moderation. You know what I mean?
No, I'm saying some things like your body can become addicted to some substances after one-time use. So if you have, but not to the point of maybe you have a little, I don't know, I'm not a medical doctor, but I know some, like, you will have a psychological addiction to it because getting high is pretty dope, man. I can tell you that.
I mean, I can tell you, like, I've done one drug before, which I don't want to do again, which shall not be named, where I was just.
Do you mind me asking, is it a psychedelic upper or a downer? Because those are the three major categories.
It's not a psychedelic. It's a downer.
Yeah, I know in my experience with like surgery and downers, I'm not a big fan of downers. And I know in my weed intake, I prefer sativas over indicas.
Really?
Yeah, I'm
definitely an indica guy.
And maybe that's why you can smoke me under the table, because indicas are usually a lot more hard hitting.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to bring up anything? Those are the things I learned from this podcast specifically. That also, and then finding good people. It's so important. It sounds like it's very important, and I definitely need to find some good people during this corona thing, and that's definitely what I've been trying to do, like reaching out to people. So if you've been reached out to by me, it's because I think you're good people, and I want you to be part of my people. I want you to be part of the good people, and you're one of those people, Josh, because you're good people. Any other thing I want to give you the opportunity to end things, and then I'll do my good old closing.
All right, let me ask you the best question that I think I got on here.
Give me a question that will make us go another 20 minutes is all I wanted to say.
All right. What came first, the chicken or the egg?
Well, evolutionary, I studied it's the egg. That's the answer. Sorry. Basically, to give it out, we chickens evolved from raptors, maybe not a raptors, but a bipedal dinosaur that is I think they're called theropods. I forget. Like I said, my historical geology class, I need to relearn the textbook. And that eventually that raptor is going to have a chicken baby eventually. So the egg of that raptor had to be an egg before it was a chicken. So the egg become first before the chicken.
All right, fine. I gotta ask you a different question now. You already killed it. You you blew it out of the park with that one. Okay. Let's go with what labels, or fuck that. How would you define justice?
Justice? Ooh. Yeah. Dude, that's a whole nother podcast. I do not have the energy for that. I'll leave that to do the next time I have you on. We'll have this discussion. And I need to do a lot of bullet points before I got that. And I think that's perfectly. Let's do it within
watch some schmoops on Play-Doh.
Exactly. I'm gonna do like 4 or 5 podcasts in between, but I want to have you back on, Josh. I want to have you back on because I like this.
Yeah.
Okay, so for my close, I'm gonna say thank you guys if you're watching to this point. I think it's like an hour and a half, maybe or hour and 10, 15 minutes. I want to thank anybody if you're listening to this thing. If anything you want to learn from this is we're all not perfect. We're all still learning things. Let's learn this together. If anything, we're a bunch of 20-year-olds that don't know any better. But at least one thing that I'm doing and Josh here is doing is we're trying to figure it out, and that's what matters. Let's figure it out things together. Let's make the world a better place, Zoomers. Little by little, let's get it. I know I have scheduled a few more recordings, and I should have a podcast I'm committing to myself daily. Let's see if I keep to that commitment. All right, there we go. That is it. That's the CJP Caleb Joshua Paul show. First video, and this is Josh, and he knows me as Josh. Lad podcast. I talked to Ruth, who knows me as Paul. So that's a little fun little quip to see what part of people I bring on knows me as who.